Hello and welcome to Big Conversations with T Ademo. It's Friday, the 2nd of February, so happy Black History Month to everyone celebrating or observing Black History Month this February. So here we go. Today we have Councilor Erin Rutherford. She's a councilor for Ward Anik, and she's joining us to talk about municipal politics and everything else. Um, Good morning, Erin. How are
Hi.
you today?
Good. How are you?
I am very, very, very well, thank you. Let's put some more light on that. Beautiful. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so very much for doing this.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here.
hmm I'm really sorry that I've not stayed in touch over, I know it's an election year next year. And, and I also know counselors are like celebrities around. I saw you yesterday. What has it been like being a counselor for the first time? And any notable achievements you want to share?
It's funny, like I don't think of celebrity at all. Like I think that it's definitely not why people should go into this role. And if anything, we're often infamous rather than famous. Every decision you make at council, will have some people that like it and some people that don't like it. And so it's a very challenging and dynamic job, and it takes a lot of courage to step into this space and keep showing up. So for me, I don't know, I've just never seen myself as anybody but still just Erin, and a member of the community. Like, these are my neighbors. I care about community, trying to make decisions every day that better the city, better the area that I represent, and that's how I show up. So I still grocery shop at my local grocery store, and if people say hi to me, they say hi to me, but oftentimes people don't, like, they don't recognize me. I think what you learn more than anything is how little people actually are attuned to local politics on the average public. They provincial, federal for sure, but because you're your own brand, you're not a part of a party. It's harder for them to know you and know your face, your identity, those kind of things. Um, I feel like I've accomplished a lot in my term on council. I would say that my approach has been very much more uh, matched with my practice of community development. So when you're a community developer, you work hard behind the scenes. You do a lot of things, um, relationship building. You don't necessarily take front and center stage. You let community shine. And I feel like I do that too still within my council role. I build really strong relationships with colleagues, with administration, with community members, and then I let others shine. But I would say that I also do know that there's spaces where others aren't passionate about that I've really stepped into as a counselor. And so some things that I know have been kind of a big area of championing for me is the metro line, and making sure that we're getting some mass transit service, be it rapid bus or the metro line, progressing to this area of the city. Protecting the river valley has been a huge passion of mine, and something that, you know, as I've gotten into this role, I've seen even more and more the decisions that we make, and how we need to preserve that jewel. Uh, Animal welfare is another big area that I've become very passionate about. And this doesn't mean I'm not passionate about some of the bigger issues. These are just ones that, as a counselor, I've seen uh, myself really stepping into those spaces that others aren't necessarily paying that much attention to. Not that they don't care, it's just they're, we all have kind of our things that we champion and care about, right? So those are some things that I know that I've been really, really pushing on, but also, I'm really proud of some of the more comprehensive work that I've championed, such as the consolidation of the public spaces bylaw that's coming back to public hearing this month. And while I still think that there's, uh, you know, some details to work out, and we need to look at refining some of the things that are proposed by administration. I think the sentiment of having one bylaw, so it doesn't matter if you're on a train platform, you're in Churchill Square, you're at Horlack Park, you're on the North Saskatchewan River, that there's the same rules that govern no matter where you are in the city. And I think it's going to help bylaw, it's going to help EPS, but it's not about enforcements. It's just about being clear and kind. And the more clarity we provide the public about what's okay behavior and what's not okay behavior in these spaces, the more we're likely to see that behavior that we want to see in public spaces.
Mm. Thank you for that. I hear you loud and clear. And when you say sometimes you make decisions or you're part of a team that makes certain decisions that don't make everybody happy, I also think I may understand what that is. And I'm edging now towards the property tax increase. I didn't follow the conversation. I didn't listen to all the hearings. So I'm just wondering, some people may not be happy with the 6.6% increase
Yeah.
because of rising inflation and the cost of living crisis and this one and that one. And have you gotten to hear any sort of pushback or that some people are not happy? Why was this decision taken? You
Well,
know?
and let's be clear, it's not just 6.6% this year. There's proposed in the 4-year budgeting that we did for 2023 to 2026. There's tax increases in each of those years sequentially. That's a big ask of the public. And then in addition to that, what was proposed for 2024 has now increased further from the original amount proposed, which I think was like 4.9. And please don't like hold me to those numbers right off the top of my head, but it's now 6.6. And this one I really grappled with because I knew a lot of people, nobody's ever happy with taxes. Like if there's a tax increase, people are not happy. But what's really interesting is that at the same time, people want public services more than ever. They see the value in public service and they want good quality public services. When I was door knocking and campaigning, and I still door knock now. In fact, I'm going out this afternoon to door knock in one of the neighborhoods in the ward. I still consistently hear about turf, snow maintenance, recs, the importance of rec centers, the importance of making sure that our infrastructure isn't falling apart, and safety concerns, and needing to make sure we have better ways to deal with safety. And I'm hearing about all of these things that people are expecting and wanting with the same inflationary pressures the city is experiencing, that every household is experiencing. So there's a few things. When I look at the 4-year budget, why I was willing to support that budget was because my campaign was really based on protecting core services and protecting public service. And I knew going into a post-pandemic, I know we're still there's still COVID, but from a moving forward society way, a post-pandemic world, that there was going to be the pressure to use austerity measures. And austerity measures usually mean offloading to private sector, public services, or cutting them all together, and services that people really rely on. And I felt that we really struck a balance as a council of saying, we need to protect public service. We need to not only protect it, but we need to strategically find spaces where we can improve services like snow clearing, because there's such accessibility issues, right? If we're not clearing pathways properly, if we're not doing these things, that people are not able to move around the city and people are isolated. Like these are real issues. And what was originally proposed was an 8% tax increase for 2023. And we were able to bring the overall tax increase down while still making sure that we didn't do cuts that hurt. In addition to that, the mayor did put in the amendment to look at efficiencies that would transfer $240 million from non-core services to core services. And that work is ongoing. In fact, we have a report coming back from the city manager at the next council meeting that's talking about some of the recommended areas that we could stop doing, and start to shift that funding to more core services. So we're doing stuff within our base budget while also recognizing that our utility costs are going up in our facilities. Our demands on things like, policing are going up, and people wanted to see police getting funding. The 6.6%, the reason I grappled with that one the most is because I did not support the funding formula, and a big majority of the adjustment from what was originally proposed and what we ended up settling on with the 6.6 tax increase for 2024 was related to policing, be it arbitrated settlements or the funding formula, in addition to utility costs. Like that's what essentially makes up that 6.6%. But again, I'm a team player. I'd rather, I didn't see the political benefit of saying no, when we all collectively should be owning this as a council to support, that we're trying our best. And it is a hard decision, but if we stand collectively, we're going to be way more likely for people to see that it's not a partisan thing. It's not a left versus right thing. This is what's actually best right now for Edmonton to stay sustainable and provide those services that people want and need.
Thank you. What are your constituents saying when you go door knocking? What have they said to you?
Well, a lot of people have been really positive. Like I actually really love door knocking because it gives often a very different sense than what is in my inbox, because people tend to email when they're upset about something or have a problem, which is completely understandable. But when you just catch people on the doors and you ask them, like, what's going on for you? How are you experiencing the city? What do you like? What do you want to see different? It's a completely different conversation. And I would say overall, those concerns I brought up before are the things that are continually brought up at the doors. The snow clearing, though this year it hasn't been an issue because we haven't had any snow. Snow clearing, turf maintenance, public safety in general, all of those kind of things are always top of mind when I'm on the doors in terms of issues. But a lot of people that are also saying that they appreciate a lot of things that we as a council are doing as well. So it's quite a mix.
Okay. I'm really curious to hear when you say people appreciate what you do. What kind of stuff are they grateful for? They're appreciative of.
For me as a counselor, I get a lot of positive feedback about my communication. I am pretty proactive, both in social media, putting out a newsletter, door knocking, being present at community events whenever possible, just being present in community. And I think that has really resonated with the constituents that I represent, for sure. So I think they really appreciate having a responsive and communicative counselor. So I definitely hear that. And I think in terms of decisions, I definitely hear a lot of people understanding that I'm making hard decisions, but I've gotten a lot of personal positive feedback that I am very thoughtful in my approach. And even if they don't necessarily agree with the decision I made, that when we actually have a conversation about all that went into that decision, they appreciate how I landed on the space I landed on. So it's just been really, those are some of the positive feedback. As council as a whole, I would say it's overall less positive, but I try to just not steer into council as a whole, because all I can control is myself and how I show up. And so I usually try to focus the conversation on what they need from me and if they have any feedback for me on how I can be doing better.
Yeah, fair enough. That is true. I want to focus on. I've got two questions here. Potholes. Is this something you're dealing with, and then we can move on to security, the security of public offices.
Sorry, I missed the first part.
Potholes. I
Oh,
live in an area where the only road leading to my where I live, seems to be reading with potholes. Is this something council as a whole is beginning to work on, or you typically would wait till March to begin that work?
no,
Right.
definitely potholes is part of that core service that I talked about snow clearing and turf, but like filling potholes and, maintaining our roads is absolutely an essential operational function that the city needs to be providing to citizens. And I know um, that the city has been proactively filling potholes over the winter. And, what I would say is that like it's a big city. And if you are noticing potholes, phoning them into 311 is the best way, or using the 311 app is the best way to make city operations aware. They go out, they assess, and then they do deploy people, but they're doing that all year round. They don't just wait until the spring to fill potholes. So if you have a pothole you're concerned about, definitely report that. And I know that they are proactively also filling potholes as well, but it's a big city, so the more information they have on where there are problem areas, the better they can address them.
Okay, that is very helpful. Thank you. I was just wondering about the recent unsettling event that happened at City Hall last week, Tuesday. Would you say that we need to do more to ensure the safety of our public officials like yourself? That should not even have happened. I'm talking about last
Mhm.
Tuesday. Do you feel Canadian politics and public spaces are secure? And what more could we do to protect public officers like you?
So this one I really grapple with. And I grapple with it because again, I think one of the things that it gives my heart happiness. I know, like I said, the positive feedback I get from community is the more accessible, the more communicative, the more responsive I am as an elected official, the better it is, the better there's mutual understanding. I learn from residents, residents learn from me about all the things that go into decisions. And so I really struggle with um, the idea of adding any barriers to that. Now, on the flip side of things, it's interesting because while that incident happened, and I think it shed light on really an issue that's been festering for a long time. There was a recent research report that came out that showed that, and it was done in Alberta and BC, and showed how female elected officials are experiencing unprecedented levels of harassment, bullying, and threats. And that's definitely my experience as a counselor. When we do make some of those tough decisions, um, they've always been threats, and they've never manifested into anything actual. So this has really created a situation where now the conceptual is real. It happened, and so what do we need to do about that? For me, I still would not want to stop access to myself. I have knowingly stepped into this role, and I don't want to lose that accessibility. But what has been so humbling, and I guess the most challenging since being elected, is the threats to my family. Because it's one thing to threaten me. I've stepped into this role, I make decisions, but the weight of knowing that a decision that I make is going to trigger somebody to threaten my children is another level that I wasn't prepared for in coming into this role. And so I think that the conversation actually needs to be more about how do we, yes, protect elected officials, but I don't think we've really given much attention to like what are the risks that we put out to the families of elected officials, and how do we safeguard that? Because I'll give you a clear example. I had to fill out disclosure papers the other day. Standard procedure. It's the government of Alberta mandated. Great. It helps provide transparency that there's no like conflict of interest financially, but I'm required to list the full names of my kids on this public disclosure document, and then list if they're leading any organizations, like have any their shareholders in any things, whatever it is, and they're under 18, and I have to, now that is a public document, and my kids have very unique names. So until the incident that happened on Tuesday, I've filled this kind of out routinely and I haven't thought about it. But after the incident that just recently happened, it was actually very hard for me to like fill this out and be like, I have to publicly disclose my kids' names that are very unique on this document and put that out there, and they're under 18. So I think there's a lot of conversations we need to have where we balance transparency and accountability with protection and safety. And I think that it's just minor tweaks. I don't think we need to go extreme. But for example, with that paper disclosure, the thing that I think about is like, could we not say child one under 18, minor? And then yes, they have shares, child A has shares or not. Why do we need to put their full names, right? So I think we can still do that document without having to disclose their names, as an example.
Yeah, that's very concerning and I dare say even alarming. And my goodness, I just the weight of just the weight of the sheer thought that one's family could be endangered by the work you do. It's grieving my heart right now, and I pray that your family remains safe and that all of this remains a conversation and no harm comes to the people you love and care about. But I hear you. The burden to serve is it's a weight. Wow. Thank you for serving us.
And like I said, I knew that weight. Like I think anybody that, you know, and I know that people are going to be watching this that are thinking about running in the next election, especially women or people that are racialized women. And I think you're always told that, you know, you got to have a thick skin, that you know, you've got to be prepared for criticism, all of those things. And it is absolutely true. But I think that what I didn't know that I know now is like how decisions and my job was going to have more of an impact on my family than I ever put account into, and both in terms of like safety, but also in terms of time away, in terms of yeah, a lot of things like that. So I think it's not a discouragement, but it's just, you know, wanting people to come into this process eyes wide open to the current state of the situation.
Mm, mm. Okay. Well, that is so dark. I want to, I want to move on, but I can't. I have to look at the time and move on regardless. It's something. Thanks for drawing our attention to that. And I'm just wondering if there are things like those are documents the city could encourage you guys to fill in a less in the more in the most in a safely manner actually.
Well, this is a conversation that needs to happen with the province because the
Yeah.
disclosure documents are across the province, right? So again, there's things that we can do, but there's also things that I think we need to raise up
So
as issues. And again, I think the disclosure is important. I think we need to be able to be transparent that we don't have any other, you
yeah,
know,
but for children below 18, like children below 18 are not buying shares in a company, I think. Children
well,
below
and they might have shares in a company. People can buy like, but again, I don't know why you need your phone. Like you could say child A has shares in this company.
yeah, not
Child,
disclose their names.
yeah.
Fair enough. So you can Google them and go. I hear what you're saying. Okay, I got a last question here. I know you gotta go. Sorry, before I move on, who in the province needs to know about this? Who could we send an email to fix this for us? This disclosure form.
The municipal affairs minister.
Okay, cool. So he's the one we need to email. All right, Black History Month. This is February Black History Month, and I saw you at Winspear yesterday. What more could a council do to encourage diversity, either between its employees or just to make sure diversity thrives beyond 2025, because you guys are off for election, I think, next year. Then another council is elected. I hope you're elected. Another council is elected. And then all the work you guys have done around anti racism goes, and then we have to start all over again. So what could we do that would leave lasting impact in Edmonton?
Well, That's a lot. That's a big question to unpack. I think I'm going to focus on representation, and I think a few things that this is the most diverse council that Edmonton has ever seen. We have majority women, and we have some racialized folks, Indigenous, newcomers, quite a diversity on our council, which is fantastic. Um, but the research, the social research, and this is my background, shows that often women are elected in a change election, and when things are tough, and then when things don't improve, they don't get reelected. And so I think there's a big risk of swinging the pendulum back to not having that diversity. And I think what we have to still acknowledge is while there's diversity, we have never had a Black councillor. We have never had we had so many amazing Black candidates that ran in the last election. And I hope if they're listening to this, that they do choose to run again. And I hope that they weren't discouraged in the last election. And I hope that even more sign up to run, because I think that it is a very missed perspective on council. And we know that while racism is experienced by many, it's very dynamic and not experienced the same way. And so we've got a lot of that anti-racism work that needs to continue. And I would be really sad to see, a council not keep pushing that further. But I think that we really need to recognize that while we are the most diverse, we still have room to gain diversity on our council. And I think that it would be a huge success and win for me if in 2025 we do have our first Black councillor on city council. That would be amazing.
Absolutely. What do you do for your mental health? How do you relax and unwind at the end of the day?
Well, yeah, and end of the day is funny because my end of the day is sometimes 11 p.m. at night, but I've been really focused on finding a balance and recognizing that this is the kind, and I guess my career has also set me up well for this, in terms of this work can grow and be as big as I let it be. Um, so the more I give to it, the more the work there's going to be to do. And so how do I strike that balance of making sure I'm doing everything I can without burning out? And I've gotten close to burnout. Like, definitely after the 4-year budget debate, after zoning bylaw was definitely the zoning bylaw debate was definitely feeling that. So there are points when we definitely have to just hunker down and do the work that's expected of us by Edmontonians. But then we have to balance that with making sure we are doing self-care. So for me, it's spending time with family and loved ones. As a single mom, I separated from my husband in 2022, and so it's actually been, while challenging, one of the positives that's come out of that is that I've been forced to make sure that I do balance my time when I have the kids, because I'm the buck stops with me. I can't just be like, oh well, my husband or my partner can deal with the bedtimes with the kids. No, I have to deal with the bedtimes with the kids, and so it has created a lot more balance for me as a positive outcome of that situation. And but yeah, I do running, I do yoga, I hang out with friends and family wherever possible. And I try to remind myself that I have a really great team. I've had the same staffer since the beginning, and they are amazing and competent. And I can step away from a day if I need to, and they will have things covered and do an amazing job. And so it's also having trust and building a really good team that makes that something that's possible for me to do and to create that balance.
Okay, okay. So I'm sending you positive vibes from one single mom to the other. Okay. Do you get time to read leisurely?
I
And
do.
if so, what are the books? What, maybe just one book because we run out of time. What is the last book maybe you read? And finally, this is Black History Month. What events are you attending so we can watch out for you there?
So I've read two books recently. I'm in a book club. So one is 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. Very deep, very heavy, very relevant nonfiction. And then as a fiction book, I've been reading, I got out from the public library, The Spare Room, which is a very fictional book about kind of like a bit of a dark murder mystery book. So those are the two that I've been reading for fun in the sort of the new year. It's been very great. And then for Black History Month, I don't know if I'm attending any specific events. Again, sometimes when I have the kids, the events fall on days that I have them, and not always are they the best for bringing kids. So I don't know what events I'm attending, but I do know that any events that I am attending, in the future, it's not just about, like, Black History Month isn't just about 1 month. It's about showing up consistently. And I know the Africa Center, for example, has that big project that they're trying to get a new location. And so, showing up for the Africa Center, which is located in the ward, visiting with them, making sure I'm championing that, are huge focuses year round for me. And I think speak to the spirit of Black History Month.
Absolutely does. They our family, the Africa Center. Like when Sharif was the Sharifaji, who's now MLA. It was it was executive director. I used to call him Daddy because his daddy of all Africans. I said, "Where's my dad? I've come home," So
Mhm.
like that. I want to say a big thank you so very much. And I stood up just now to get The Spare Room. Excellent book. I've not read it though. I think my daughter has it because she's also a book nerd. But excellent choice of book to read. And I'll check out 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. Councilor Erin Rutherford, you are the Councilor for Ward Anik. I want to say a big thank you for your time this morning. I genuinely hope we can touch base before summer and
Mhm.
yeah, touch base again to cover some of the things you're doing. I'm really grateful again. Thank you.
No, thank you for having me. This has been a joy, as always.
Okay, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your morning, ma'am.
You too.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much for watching. We hope you join us next time. Goodbye.